considering moving outside of the United States anytime in the near future? In this video, I share what my experience has been like living in Baku for the last 4 weeks, and baby, it has been a ride. Welcome to my channel. My name is Dominique, and on my channel I invite you into my simply yet complex life. In today's video, I'm going to talk about what it has been like moving across the world from the United States all the way to Baku in Azerbaijan. I know oftentimes people consider moving outside of the United States to another country, and I feel like it's kind of fantasized a bit at times. But in today's video, I thought it might be interesting to share what my experience has been like living as an expat for about the last 4 weeks. But before we get into that, if you're interested in following me along in my journey and just learning more about Baku, I encourage you to please subscribe to my channel and click the notification bell so you don't miss any future updates from me. Alright, so here's a little background. My family and I moved to Baku almost a month ago, but it's been 4 weeks to the day. We moved here from the United States, Northern Virginia in particular, and we arrived here in Baku at like 1 a.m. in the morning. We had been traveling for about 24 hours and we were beat by the time we got here. We are a family of 5, so you can imagine what goes into traveling, taking a very long trip with that many people, 2 adults and 3 kids, one of which is a 13-month-old. And not to mention, we were traveling with like 17 pieces of luggage, but that's another story for another time. Thankfully, when we arrived, we were able to clear customs pretty quickly, and we were already set up before we got here. So what I mean by that is, once we got everything loaded up at the airport, we were able to come straight to the home that we will live in for the next few years. The first 24 hours here were an absolute whirlwind, but the first 24 hours in the new house was very interesting. As I mentioned, we arrived at like 1 a.m. in the morning, so it was dark. We didn't really get to see a whole lot of our surroundings. Even though we were tired, as you can imagine, jet lag set in. None of us were able to go to sleep because our bodies were still on East Coast time back in the US. Eventually at like 6 a.m. in the morning, which was probably like 10-11 p.m. or something like that, don't quote me on that. There is an 8-hour time difference, but basically our East Coast time kicked in and everybody was exhausted and we went to sleep at that point. We woke up at like 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon, local time here in Baku, and we were able to just kind of check everything out a little bit better, check out our surroundings outside a little bit better as well. And we've been blessed to have some pretty good, they're not amazing city views, but we have pretty good views of the city from where we live. So that's been a nice bonus. After we all woke up and just kind of, took some time to start to wrap our heads around everything, it really started to sink in that, oh my gosh, we are really doing this. We have done this. We are in this new place, in a place that's foreign to us for the foreseeable future. So as you can imagine, we were coming to grips with that reality as well as dealing with the culture shock. So with that said, as the hours went by and the first couple of days went by, we became just straight up overwhelmed. Anytime you're in an unfamiliar place, there's a learning curve involved, right? A lot of figuring out like how to get the basic things that you need, how you're going to get from point A to point B, so on and so forth. Currently, we do not have a car yet here in Baku. Our plan was to buy something here locally. That's going to take a little bit of time. Even though we don't have a car, we do have plenty of options to get what it is that we need. So, getting food has not been an issue. Getting to and from work for my husband hasn't been an issue. Getting to the store, if we need to get to the store, hasn't been an issue. However, I do find it a little bit of an inconvenience not having our own personal vehicle, especially since we have a 13-month-old, like I mentioned. So when we're in the back of a taxi or things of that nature, we're not really using a car seat, which has stressed me the heck out in the beginning. But, you know, I've learned to kind of relax a little bit. So it is what it is. It's easier to just kind of hop in and out of a taxi without fooling around with a car seat. But, you know, hey, it is what it is. Even though we were overwhelmed pretty early on, we have had some help. You know, this is a military related move. So of course we've had people like helping us out, making sure we're able to get the things that we need and that we have the things that we need. So we're very fortunate in that regard. I cannot imagine moving to a new country, a place that I haven't lived in before, and not having that type of support system. So I know people make huge moves all the time. You know, if you are somebody who's considering moving outside of the United States to another country, these are all things that you want to take into consideration, especially if you're moving to a place where you don't know anybody, you don't have a support system in place. There are a lot of logistics you need to figure out and do a lot of planning ahead on the front end before you get there. I can tell you that we did a lot of planning ahead, hence the 17 pieces of luggage that we had. And I mean, I thought we were prepared, and we tried to prepare as best as we could, right? Because we were definitely going into the unknown somewhat. But, you know, now that we're on the other side of it, I feel like we still could have done a better job with the preparation. So again, if you're considering living as an expat or making a huge move, you definitely want to over research, okay? So you can be super prepared. So again, it was very overwhelming trying to commit like a lot of information to memory pretty quickly, just with navigating it all. As far as the culture shock is concerned, we experienced major culture shock here in Baku in Azerbaijan. For one thing, there aren't a lot of people of color here, and we knew that prior to coming. But with that, we have experienced the challenge of being stopped a lot while we're out in public. In particular, we are stopped a lot by people wanting to take pictures with us. And I have learned that, you know, well, from what I've been told anyway, a lot of the people in this area, in this region, they don't get a chance to get out often to travel to other places. So a lot of them have not seen people of color. On top of that, they know that we are Americans. So when you combine the two together, you know, they know that we are that we're probably important people or that we're here for a reason. A lot of them think that we are celebrities of some sort, so they want pictures for that reason. Others just want pictures because they've never, you know, seen anybody that looked like us before. And that's not everybody. There is a younger generation here that's more influenced by Western culture. So we have experienced a time or two where we've gotten in the back of a taxi and, you know, they had their Azerbaijani music playing, and next thing I know, they're fiddling around with the radio station, and I hear 50 Cent in the club come on the radio. So, you know, I find that they have little ways where they try to show us like, yeah, we know, you know, Black people, we know what you listen to, that kind of thing, which, you know, I'm not going to go into any more detail on that. It is what it is, but that has taken some getting used to. And just kind of adding on to that, I do want to mention that the Azerbaijani people, they love children. So on top of being stopped often for a picture request, I've also experienced a lot of people just coming up to my 13-month-old, just trying to hold her or grab her, touch her. That has also taken some getting used to. And again, culturally, Azerbaijanis love babies. So just knowing that has influenced the way I react or my lack of reaction in those moments. However, I have, you know, gotten to the point where I'm like, no, or, you know, just try to gently move my child in a different direction to kind of prevent those unwanted touches and whatnot, because germs are real. Aside from those things, another culture shock has been that a lot of people here do not speak English. As I mentioned, the younger generation is more influenced by Western culture, so they do know some English, but in general, English is not widely spoken. And with that said, you know, there's a challenge of when I'm going into the local markets and things of that nature to get groceries, a lot of the product labels are in Russian. So Russian and Azerbaijani are the dominant languages here. And if you were not aware, Azerbaijan recently, and I say recently because it's fairly new, you know, when you consider how politics work, but Azerbaijan recently gained its independence from Russia in like 1994. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's correct. So with that said, there's a lot of, you know, Russian influence or remnants of that within the culture. So, you know, it is what it is. Even though we can't necessarily read the product labels, of course, we have things like Google Translate to help us out. And then pictures of items that are on food. I mean, you know, there are many things you can look at, and it's not rocket science to figure out what it is. So, that hasn't been that big of a deal, but it has taken some getting used to. So aside from the language barrier, another thing that has been a bit of a shock is traffic. So the traffic here is, you know, we left a terrible traffic area in the DMV back in the United States. So we left one bad traffic area and landed in another bad traffic area, because the traffic here is probably worse. And I can't even believe that I'm saying that. So with that said though, I don't think I'll be, even though we don't have a car currently, when we do get a car, I don't think I'll be driving anytime soon. There are a lot of people here in Baku. The city is like bustling. I mean, so many people here. And with that said, there are a lot of cars on the road, and the traffic patterns are similar to what's in the United States. However, what is not clear is how the rules of the road work. I don't know. But I know I've been in the back of a taxi on multiple occasions where I was pretty sure another car was getting ready to slam into the car that we were in. And, you know, so far it hasn't happened. Fingers crossed that it never happens. But traffic is crazy. And I feel like you gotta be a local to understand how to navigate it. If you're not a local, you know, you're gonna need a local to teach you how to drive. Because it's just that wild at times. It has been a huge adjustment getting used to the weather. Now, I feel like we're pretty used to cold weather, and you know, it's been a similar climate here in that regard, in comparison to the DMV area back in Virginia. However, the thing that is taking a lot of getting used to is the fact that, you know, number one, it is cloudy and or overcast skies, partly sunny skies quite often. So it's very rare to have a day that is just full of sunshine. So, you know, when we do have a sunny day, we do try to make it a point to get outside and enjoy that, because if you know anything about like mental health and how weather can impact that at times, it's going to be important that we make sure we're getting outside and getting some sunlight, some sunshine when the opportunity presents itself. The other issue, well, it's not an issue, but it's just a thing. Baku is known as the city of winds. And I don't mean wind like winning money. I'm talking about wind. It is windy. It's windy a lot. So think if it's like, I don't know, 45 degrees outside and that wind is going, it's going to feel like 40, 39 degrees. So it's been cold since we've gotten here. We're now almost at the end of March. And thankfully the weather seems to be warming up a tad bit. But I know once the fall and winter come back around within the next year, that is going to be a challenge. That wind is just a lot. So another thing that's a challenge is the availability of items and or the inconsistency of items that are available. So, you know, we might find some things, particularly like creature comfort items, and then all of a sudden, you know, it's out of stock or we can't find it anymore. Now this is gonna sound real crazy. This isn't the best example, but I don't know, potato chips, right? Let's just use that as an example. We found some Lay's sour cream and onion potato chips here that actually taste much better than the sour cream and onion chips back home. So, you know, when you're trying to acclimate to a new area, of course, you know, you get excited when you find products and things that you're used to having. Well, we've been ordering those maybe for like the last week and a half. Yesterday I went to order some, out of stock, can't find them. So with that said, that's definitely going to take some getting used to, and it does, you know, it just takes a lot of work to find what you're looking for. And I may do a separate video on that later. Amazon is bae to begin with, but Amazon is truly going to be my best friend over our next few years here. Aside from that, the Azerbaijanis are very nice. I mean, the people have been very friendly and pleasant. Crime in this area is very, very low. So overall, it's pretty safe here. And, you know, we've been here for almost a month now. We're just now starting to feel settled. Now that it's been about 30 days. So again, and just on the front end of moving here, and I don't say this disrespectfully, but I had very little expectations prior to coming. As I mentioned, I had done my research, so there's a lot of things I kind of knew already. And I mentioned in the beginning of my video, you know, a lot of people, oh, you know, I'm gonna move outside the United States or whatever, for whatever reason. But I did not want to like fantasize moving here, if that makes sense, because I knew it was going to be different. And I think because I had very low expectations, to be honest with you, that has helped me in my transition, because I wasn't taken aback very much by many things. Does that mean it's not hard? No, it's still hard. It has been a very difficult transition. I will not lie about that. However, things are starting to get better. And with that said, I know that it's going to be very important that we kind of find our tribe while we're here, you know, lean into that, as well as find some things that we like to do, or continue to do the things that we like to do as a family and individually. Just speaking for myself, you know, I have a whole host of friends that I left behind in Virginia. So I'm taking steps to try to maintain communication with those friends, maintain those relationships. That's going to be something really, really important. Also, you know, obviously I left my job. I was not a stay-at-home mom. So now that I am at home, of course that takes some getting used to. So I'm just trying to, you know, mind my mental throughout this transition, and making sure I'm doing things to positively support my mental health, if that makes sense. As I mentioned, I just wanted to come on here real quick and just kind of do a video, which is also more like a check-in, to just kind of document this moment in time, but also to just share it, you know, to share a bit of my story and my journey with those who are interested in hearing my story and being connected to my journey during my time here in Baku. So if you're interested in learning more about this country, as well as kind of following me and my family, just kind of seeing what we're up to, what we're doing, things to do here, again, please comment down below and let me know. Let me know what kind of content you guys want from me as it pertains to our move here to Baku. Also, remember to click that notification bell so you don't miss future videos from me. And if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. I look forward to sharing with you all in the next video. Bye.